Hello. Today I want to focus on the issue of the shortages of microchips across the world. I think the issue has engulfed quite a huge number of problems in the companies or end users who are needing the component to produce their own goods. If you remember last year, the first quarter, when we were about to enter the initial hard lockdowns across the world, it was the phenomenon at the time because to cap the excessive spread of COVID-19 that was uncontrollably spreading in many countries. So countries introduced lockdowns to maintain that spread. Automobile industry, which constitute around 40% of the demand of microchips, cancel their own orders because in their own projections was that they were not going to produce any cars and they were not going to need any microchips because the demand as people were going to be seated at home was not going to be there and people were not going to be traveling from point A to point B. So they canceled their own orders because the production was going to be halted at the time. But also, if you remember again that as we seated at home, the only thing we used to keep sane was watching our TVs and using our laptops, phones, and all the gadgets that we normally use. And that drove a sharp demand in the electronics space. And companies like Apple, Samsung ordered more chips than they usually do to maintain the demand that was coming from customers. As you see now, the ease of lockdowns across the world who are not facing an excessive spread of COVID-19, who've really maintained their own the virus, are easing up their own lockdowns. That drove also the sharp rise again of the demand for automobiles product. And automobiles needed to go back to manufacturers of microchips to order the usual order the usual product that they usually order to produce their own product. So that created quite an imbalance for manufacturers of microchips, because now the rise in electronic space was not slowing down, and the rise now in automobiles industry. So it created a huge imbalance for them. And how now do they maintain the huge rise of demand in both industries and many other industries who are using the component to produce their own goods? So it's really the issue of rebalancing whatever issues that they are facing to introduce it's a production methods that will produce enough goods to their own customers. So here's how this is going to affect you as a customer. So as you see now that the demand is excessively more than supply, that's going to sharply drive the prices through the roof for microchips to companies who are using microchips as a component to produce their goods. So this is going to cascade down to us. If the phone you use that you usually bought or buy at $300 or 400 euros or $500 was 700 rands, it's going to cost more than it usually was, because now the component that they use now is more expensive than it was. To maintain their own cost, they need to up the price. So this is how it's going to affect the customers, the issue of microchips or the shortages of microchips in the world. I don't know whether is it the shortage or is it the issue of the microchip manufacturers failing to maintain now the high rise of demand that they are facing. So in my view, it's not many companies have really adjusted themselves to the new world, as people are calling it, of operating their own companies and introducing new process methods to produce necessary services and goods for their own customers. They are going to readjust to whatever demand that they are facing from customers, and rebalance and whatever demand that is coming from the electronic space and coming from the automobile industry. So it's really it's the issue of time It can take around a year or two to maintain the demand that they're facing, because now there's an issue of shortage. Thank you.